Hi friends, in this video we are going to deal with the article titled Fundamental Rights, Right to Freedom, Articles 20 and 21. The author of the article is one Ms. Vinika Sharma, who after completing her BA/BL is pursuing LLM from Jamia Millia Islamia, New Delhi. To know more about it, let's quickly move on to the topic.
Hi everyone, in this session I'll be dealing with Article 20 and 21. So let's start with the discussion. Article 20, it talks about protection in respect of conviction for offences. This article applies to criminal matters specifically. Now this article has three clauses. Clause 1 deals with protection against ex post facto laws. Clause 2 deals with protection against double jeopardy. Clause 3 deals with protection against self-incrimination. Clause 1 of this article prohibits detrimental criminal legislation either in a case where something was not an offence earlier has been made an offence now, and also in case where there was a particular punishment for an offence earlier and subsequently the punishment was enhanced. Then such laws will not be applicable retrospectively. However, Article 20 Clause 1 does not prohibit the retrospective application for beneficial criminal legislation. This is also known as prospective and retrospective laws. Now Clause 2 that deals with the double jeopardy states that no person shall be prosecuted and punished for the same offence more than once. In this clause, the word person is used, which means this clause is for both citizens as well as non-citizens. The prosecution should be before a judicial or a quasi-judicial body, and there should be a proper trial for this clause to apply to a proceeding. A mere departmental action or administrative action is not considered to be a prosecution under Article 20 Clause 2. If an accused has committed an offence and he has been prosecuted under a criminal law and has been convicted and punished for an offence, then for the same offence he cannot be prosecuted and punished again. The bar is not with respect to a mere prosecution, rather it is with respect to both prosecution as well as punishment. This means if earlier the accused was merely prosecuted and not punished for the offence, then for the subsequent prosecution and punishment, the bar of Clause 2 will not apply. There is a very famous maxim related to this clause, which is nemo debet vis vixari. It means no person shall be prosecuted twice for the same offence. Now let's move to the last clause of this article, that is Clause 3 of Article 20. Which talks about no self-incrimination. A person may not be accused at the time of giving evidence but becomes the accused later at the stage of inquiry or trial, then also he will get protection under this clause if he is compelled to give the evidence. If the person has given such self-incriminatory statement voluntarily, then this clause will not apply. Few things such as thumb impressions, signature, fingerprints, blood samples, handwriting are the exceptions to this clause of Article 20. In a very leading case of MP Sharma versus Satish Chandra, 1954 Supreme Court, it was held by the Honorable Supreme Court that the person who seeks protection under Article 20 Clause 3 need not be an accused at the time when he was compelled to give the information. Thus, even if he was not the accused at the time when he was compelled to give the information, and is later on it is found that he was the accused, then he will still get the protection under Clause 3 of Article 20. This protection is only available against the compulsion. The protection is only with respect to those statements or information that can be used as evidence against the accused. One more important aspect is that Section 132 of Indian Evidence Act will not be affected by this clause of Article 20 in any way, because Section 132 of Indian Evidence Act, it talks about the witnesses, and Article 20 it talks about the accused person. So there is a difference between both. So with this we end our Article 20, and now let's move to very important and very lengthy article, that is Article 21. Article 21 states that no person, so before starting this Article 21, I would like to ask if there are any suggestions regarding my videos. Also, if you want me to add something in this, you can comment down in this video below. And also if I miss out on something, you can surely put a comment there. So now let's start with Article 21. Article 21 states that no person shall be deprived of his right to life or personal liberty except according to the procedure established by law. In this article, the word person includes both citizens as well as non-citizens, and the word his includes females and transgenders also. The concept of procedure established by law is borrowed from Japan. Article 21 and its various dimensions have been summarized in the preamble in the words dignity of the individual. We find this line in the preamble. That is what emphasizes upon the fact that the individual's dignity is of utmost importance under the Constitution. All the various principles of the Constitution, as is manifest in the preamble, are aimed at promoting fraternity, and fraternity in turn will assure the dignity of the individual. The word life under this article has to be interpreted in its real and constitutional sense. The approach should be that of a purposive interpretation. In a very important case of Francis Coralie versus Union Territory of Delhi, 1981 Supreme Court, it was held that life cannot be seen in a mere negative sense. That is, the person remaining alive and breathing is not a living person. Life is a much broader term which would draw its real meaning from the word dignified life. For the first time, Article 21 was suspended in 1962. One more important question that arises here is that is Article 21 applicable only upon the state? So primarily Article 21 applies upon the state, but it indirectly applies upon the individuals also. The state has a positive duty to ensure that the individuals do not violate the life and personal liberty of the other individuals. Another question is, does Article 21 provide freedom of action? The answer to this is, life and personal liberty of an individual is per se because of existence, and it is not conferred by the state. In the case of K.S.Puttaswamy versus Union of India 2017 Supreme Court judgment, it was held that Article 21 does not create or confer right to life and personal liberty. It simply recognizes and declares this right. This right, that is right to life and personal liberty, they are not freedom of action which can be conferred. Rather, it is per se in existence and continues as long as the individual is alive. Subsequently, in the case of Gyan Kaur versus State of Punjab 1996 Supreme Court judgment, it was held that Article 21 does not confer any right unlike Article 19. And we have already discussed Article 19, so you can switch on to that video and you'll understand this concept better. So it was also held that this is a right which goes together with the existence of an individual, and since there is no positive freedom of action under Article 21, so there cannot be any negative implication of this right. Therefore, the right to life does not include right to die. One more very recent case of 2018 is Common Cause versus Union of India. And it was held in this case that if a person in his lifetime makes a living will, according to which if he ever gets into a vegetative state, then he shall be allowed to die by withdrawing the support. Then in such a case, if while making the will the person was an adult and was in conscious mind, in such a case there is no need to obtain permission from the High Court. Now, one more very important aspect that Article 21 covers is that right to privacy. We have already studied earlier in the case of K.S.Puttaswamy versus Union of India, which was 2017 Supreme Court judgment, in which right to privacy becomes very important in the light of the facts that there have been major social media and technological development in the recent past. So privacy is an essential part of a dignified life, and without it there cannot be guarantee of dignity of a human life. Both privacy and dignity are inseparable from each other. There is one more case in Indian Young Lawyers Association versus State of Kerala 2018 Supreme Court. It was held that the devotees of Lord Ayyappa do not constitute a religious denomination in themselves, and therefore they do not have the protection of Article 26A. The denial of entry of a menstruating woman in a temple is a violation of their right to worship under Article 25. The Devasam Board, which manages the temple, is a state for the purpose of Article 20, for the purpose of Article 12. Hence, the restrictions of fundamental rights will apply on the board. Now, next we have the case of Navtej Singh Johar versus Union of India 2018 Supreme Court judgment. In this Article 377 of Indian Penal Code 1860 was held as unconstitutional. Next, we have case of Joseph Shine versus Union of India. It is also a 2018 Supreme Court judgment, and it was held in this case that the entire scheme of Section 497 of Indian Penal Code 1860 is as if the wife is the property or the commodity of the husband, as her sexual intercourse has been made conditional upon the consent of the husband. It was further held in this case that Section 497 of Indian Penal Code 1860 is violative of Article 14 as well as Article 15 of the Indian Constitution. Section 497 is an example of masculine chauvinism and dominance by treating women as a property. On the basis of above 3 points, Supreme Court held that Section 497 was unconstitutional. Now at the end, I have two very recent two very recent rulings of Karnataka High Court. The first one, in which the Honorable High Court said that the right of a woman to exercise her reproductive choice is a dimension of personal liberty as understood under Article 21 of the Constitution of India, and she has a sacrosanct right to have her bodily integrity protected. In its next ruling, the Karnataka High Court observed that not giving second dose of COVID-19 vaccine will be a violation of fundamental right to life under Article 21 of the Constitution. The Honorable Court in its order said once dose is due, it is the obligation of the state government to provide the second dose. If a second dose is not provided, it will be a violation of fundamental rights of the citizen. So that's it for Article 20 and 21. I hope you find this session helpful, and if you have any questions regarding this, or you in any way you want to contact me, you can just comment down below and I'll reply to each one of you. Thank you.